So, if you spend any time at all online or watching the news, it's really easy to think that everything is broken, that the world is just getting worse and worse. But what if that feeling, that constant sense of doom, is just wrong? What if the actual data tells a completely different story? All right, let's really get into this because the facts behind the greatest period of human progress are frankly mind blowing.
I mean, it's a fair question, right? Are you people out of your minds? That's kind of what it feels like when you put the actual data on human well being right next to the daily narrative of despair. And look, this isn't about ignoring real problems. Of course they exist. It's about this relentless, algorithm fueled pessimism that has totally disconnected us from what's actually happening in the world.
And yeah, we totally get it. Every single day you open up your phone and what do you get? A parade of doom, right? The world is ending, democracy is dying, the economy is collapsing. It's this nonstop drumbeat designed to keep you angry, anxious, and of course, clicking. And this, right here, is the core conflict. On one side, you've got the story we're fed every single day, that feeling of constant decline. On the other side, you have the documented, measured facts. One is a story, the other, it's reality. And they couldn't be further apart. So, just to be super clear, this isn't about some kind of blind optimism. Nope, it's about empiricism. It's about looking at the cold, hard numbers that describe the human condition and accepting what they tell us. That we are, right now, living through the absolute greatest period of human existence ever. And honestly, it's not even a close call. Okay, so to really get your head around just how incredible today is, we've got to go back, way back. And for almost all of human history, what came before was, well, basically a flat line. For thousands of years, almost nothing changed. Think about this. For almost 5,000 years, from ancient Mesopotamia all the way to pre-industrial France, life for the average person just didn't change. You could take a farmer from 3000 BCE, drop them in 1700 CE, and they'd pretty much know the drill. The daily grind was the same. And then, boom, right at the very, very end, you see that little spike. That's us. That's the explosion. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. Extreme poverty wasn't a temporary problem for a few unlucky people. It was the condition for basically everyone. Hunger, sickness, watching almost half your children die before they turned 5. That wasn't a rare tragedy. That was just normal life for century after century.
This number is it's staggering. After 5,000 years of civilization, of empires rising and falling, of art and philosophy, all of it, the average global income per person in 1820 was the equivalent of about $1,100 in today's money. Generations lived and died with essentially zero economic progress.
But then, around 1820, something shattered that pattern. For the first time in all of history, that flat line, it finally bent upwards. This was the start of an unprecedented explosion in human well-being that would change absolutely everything. It's a change that's honestly hard to wrap your head around. In 1820, 9 out of every 10 people on this planet lived in extreme poverty. Today, it's less than 1 in 10. This is, without a doubt, the single greatest story in human history, and it's one we almost never hear. And this isn't some ancient history we're talking about. Just between 1990 and 2019, 1.25 billion people climbed out of extreme poverty. And get this, that happened while the global population grew by more than 2 billion. So we didn't just shrink the percentage, we shrank the actual number of people in poverty. It's incredible. And no, that's not an exaggeration. When you look at the sheer scale of this achievement, it just dwarfs everything else. Every war, every political movement, even landing on the moon. And yeah, it was about way more than just money. Back in 1800, child mortality was a horrifying 43%. Today, it's less than 4%. Life expectancy, it more than doubled from around 30 years to over 70. Global literacy shot through the roof. I mean, pick any meaningful metric you can, and life just got better. Period. So what was the engine driving all this? Simple. Economic growth. The average person alive today is 16 times richer than their ancestor was back in 1820. And that's after 5 millennia of going absolutely nowhere. That's the fuel that powered this whole incredible transformation. So what happened? What was the spark? Well, it was this perfect storm, a powerful mix of ideas and inventions all clicking into place at the right time.
Stable institutions, the scientific method, new sources of energy, modern finance, and maybe most importantly, a cultural shift, a new respect for innovation instead of just clinging to tradition.
Okay, so now that we know all this, what's the takeaway? What do we do with this information? Like, who do we thank for this incredible progress? And what's our job now in keeping it going? The big idea here is that this progress, it wasn't some grand plan from the top. It didn't come from politicians or pundits or commentators. It came from the builders, the engineers, scientists, entrepreneurs, and doctors, the people who just got up every morning and solved problems. And this really boils down to two different mindsets. You've got the complainer, who's all about outrage, all about explaining why something can't be done. And then you have the builder, who's focused on one thing: output, finding a problem and actually fixing it. One consumes attention, the other creates value. And these are the faces of progress. Yeah, some you might know, like Norman Borlaug, the guy who basically saved 1 billion people from starving. But a lot of them are anonymous, like the countless health workers who trekked vaccines on foot into the middle of nowhere. They weren't tweeting about problems, they were out there building the solutions. And you know what? Their formula, it's pretty simple. And it's repeatable. Nothing magical about it. Find a problem, build a solution, let it compound. But that last step, that's the crucial one. You have to learn to ignore all the noise, all the people telling you it's impossible, and just get to work. This right here has been the engine of progress forever. The world gets better not because we yell about it, but because people do the tangible work. At the end of the day, it's simple. Progress happens because the builders just outwork the complainers. And that brings us right back to today. I mean, think about it. We have more knowledge, better tools, and lower barriers to creation than any humans who have ever lived. One person with a laptop can build something today that would have taken a massive corporation to pull off just a generation ago. So the bottleneck isn't resources or opportunity, it's attention. It's what we choose to focus on. Look, this story of progress, it isn't over. The whole point of looking at this incredible data isn't to pat ourselves on the back for the past. It's to get fired up for what's next. We are literally living in an age of miracles, built by those who came before us. So the only real question left is, what are you going to build?